Dan said, why don't we talk about the following topic for tonight? It's regarding getting on the air, and we're going to kind of specify this for the new person in the hobby, maybe a year or less. And we don't want you to be intimidated. That's one thing that's really important because we've all been there. We don't want you to get intimidated by a lot of the marketing ads that you may see in various magazines, maybe on YouTube. We're here tonight to kind of walk you through a couple categories, and we're gonna tell you some of the things that we've learned through all of this. It's gonna be based upon money, because we know money is always a factor. I don't care what hobby you do, money is going to be a factor. So let's just start it off right now, and we're going to concentrate on HF rigs. We're not going to get into. I don't think we're going to dive into VHF, UHF unless someone says squirrel, and we go off on that tangent. But that's okay. But so let's just kind of start it off with HF and so from Dan, VA3 SDO. Dan, what's your opinion for guys getting in? What if I was a new ham, I want to get on HF. Do I spend the 1,500, the 5,000? Do I get something used? Maybe, what do you recommend, Dan?
So my situation, I was ready, man. I was gonna pull the trigger on the IC 7300, and I would say one of the biggest, I guess, blessings into my amateur radio adventure was somebody donated to me an old school IC 725, and hindsight, I realized how good that was. It's not a glamorous radio, but I didn't realize the investment that I was going to put into amateur radio. You can be very cheap. Like you can just get a wire, a transmission line, and get a rig. But I kind of started to evaluate it. And I guess the biggest reason why I suggested the topic, just to open up the door, was there's sometimes that pressure or that feeling to buy the latest and greatest. And honestly, I had a great time with my IC 725. Actually, it was more fun to see what I could do because there's so many ideas of what the limitations on this old rig were. Dude, this thing's like 30 years old. And the best part, before I pass on to somebody else, the best part is when you make a contact on one of these old used rigs and the guy comes over to you and he says, "Hey man, you sound good. I'm over here. I'm running 1,000 watts. No. What rig are you running?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm running an old IC 725 and an end-fed, 100 watts." And then the criticism is, "Well, you could use some work on your compression." And it's like, dude, you just said it was good and now you take it away. And so I guess in that same sort of criticism that you get is sort of what we put on ourselves, and that you have to have the latest and greatest. And that's what, when we were talking about it the other night, what is the reality? What do you need? Just to get on the air. Anyways, I'm gonna let somebody else speak. Let's pass over to Shane. Let's go to you.
Yeah, so I was a tech for 15 years, and then I decided to get my general during all this COVID mess. And when I started researching radios, I came into the same problem that Ate mentioned the other day, which is the analysis paralysis. And you can sit there and look at data sheets, and you can watch YouTube videos, and you can do all this stuff until the cows come home, but eventually you need to buy something. And so I looked at several different radios. I settled on a 7300, not because it was a popular rig. I settled on it because I wanted something that I could go portable with, something that didn't draw a lot of power, something that was 100 watts, and also something that I could use as a base station, because I do set it up on my dining room table. Now, I live in an apartment complex, and this is something else that a lot of hands have mentioned, is like, well, I live in an apartment complex and I can't do HF. And that was what I was told. So I turned around and said, "I hold my beer. Watch this." So I'm on the third floor, and I had the 7300. So I went and was looking at antennas, and I said, "You know what? My neighbors rarely use their balcony, so I'm just going to throw a 66-foot long end-fed half wave off the balcony and tie it off to the perimeter fence, and away we go." And the interesting thing about it is none of my neighbors paid any attention. And he was up during the day, it was up at night. And I had one neighbor ask me, they were like, "Hey, what is that going to your balcony? Is that like how y'all slide your trash down to put it in the dumpster?" because I said, well, I'm not that lazy, but and I try to get creative sometimes, but it goes. I have the antenna going over the backside of the dumpster so that if in case someone was walking near it, they couldn't accidentally touch it, and trying to be as safe as possible. But I could have done the same thing with a 991 or an 871. I chose that radio because it was. I only had to purchase one radio to serve two purposes, and it would last for quite some time. And that was the reason why I went with mine.
All right. Dan, what do you think?
I think you get what you can afford, or, a lot of people say buy once, cry once, me personally, I went with a used rig. I got a 991, the original, that was my first HF rig and quote unquote, shack in a box. But, just getting on the air, that's where I started just to get on the air was with that, and then, learning about the antennas, because you've got your rig, you've got your feed line, you've got your antennas, you've got this, you've got that, you've got all these things that you need to obtain. But the other thing is, I think Don said it a couple seconds ago, Mr. Gibbs said it a few moments ago, that if you're in a club or a good club, all right, somebody will let you borrow something or even come over to your place and help you set up and do things like that. It's part of that's part of the better, some of the better clubs. I definitely agree with that
I mean,
squirrel.
I wouldn't be lying, but
but yeah, no, I mean, going to ask the club members, ask your Elmers, and not just the Elmers in your club. Like we said last week, where's your clubhouse now? You've got Discord, YouTube. I hate to say that the 3-letter acronym that turns into 75 meters, on a good day. So but it just being in an HOA is another unique experience. I live in heck. It's where I live.
You live in a tough one.
Heck.
You live in a tough one.
Yeah. I can't even park my daily driver, my pickup truck, right out front of my house. So it's that bad at this place. And I know somebody that drives in El Camino, they can't park in front of their house either.
Wow.
Because it's the way that the homeowners association set it up. But I'm able to do it stealthily out back, and temporary setups are fine. But it's just, figure it out,
Right.
Analysis.
There's a way to do it.
There is. And one of the things I wanted to throw out, I'm gonna give you guys a couple analogies. Being the old guy here.
Oh,
Oh man, here he comes with his stories. Get out the iced tea. Or the sweet tea. Here's, when I wanted my first car in 1977, 1978, you know what I wanted? I wanted a brand new car. And cars back then were anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000. You can maybe get something for $4,000. And of course, I was everything from a paper boy. I worked for an in-ground pool company. I was making money. Ever since I was 12 years old. And that included, mowing lawns to pushing the shovel in the wintertime, raking. I was the kid who always worked. I wasn't very good in sports. So guess what I did? I made money. And at times I was good at keeping my money and spending my money, and other times I was good at saving the money, and other times I was not. But the point is my first car was not the car that I wanted, but it was all right, because guess what? It got me from point A to point B. I sat down, and between my grandfather and my mother and other mentors in my family said, listen, shut up. The car is for free if you want it. It's going to get you from A to B, and you're just going to have to pay the insurance, the gas, and any maintenance and all that other stuff. So sort of like your first HF rig, it may not be your first rig, but even if you buy it used, the most important thing is it giving the output power? Just make sure it works. Have someone test it for you, whatever. Yeah. Just as we keep saying, just get on the air with it. And guess what? And like what Dan was saying before about getting on the air and talking with an older rig, you may spark a conversation with an individual Yes, I remember that, Rick. So instead of just talking about the weather, all of a sudden now your conversation will now get be a fun, and who knows, you may make friends with that individual who's 500 to 1,000 miles away, and you're going to relive a dream that had. You're probably going to make that guy so happy to hear that radio on the air, and it's going to give him it's going to give him a nice day, and you're going to get something out of it too. You're going to hear about some of the accomplishments that he did with that radio and the fun and the many hours he put into it. He may even tell you something. Hey, listen, that setting, I used to run this setting, whether it's a notch filter or I'm just trying to think, maybe a twin a band pass or some compression on it, maybe if it has it. He may give you a hint of how to operate that radio that may be a little bit, then all of a sudden makes your audio sound better off. Maybe if you're working off the stock microphone, if it comes with a desktop microphone, there's a lot of advantages to it. We just don't see it because we get so caught up into I want that great radio that everybody is saying. It takes time. Like my 7300, I look back, there's no way I at the time I would have been able to afford something like that. There's just no way.
Yeah,
Go
I
for it.
was looking back with regards to North Country Ham. Stated I started
Hey, Aaron.
searching Aaron the ARR website. Found good info club with which helped him get more information, get him into the hobby, and he had an Elmer. His father-in-law. Okay, I was looking at that. It was the parentheses that sent him a radio to as a loaner. So that would definitely help out there. Definitely having an Elmer or somebody that would help you out there. I saw that Don Gibbs is also he is very right with regards to lots of well-loved used rigs that are out there. And yeah, Marty, to answer your question, we're talking about first HF rig. Your very first rig would most likely be possibly a ham a HT or a VHF mobile. But what was your first HF rig? So we got that there, and there was a couple that had stated what they have.
Hey, Dan, something? I think it was Don, brother Don from the Army, who said he was talking about an older ICOM, an ICOM 735. Our club had an ICOM 735 for about 30 years. You want to know why we kept it for 30 years?
Because it worked.
It worked. Okay. Simple radio. We used it for field day because we had some newer people who didn't use an ICOM, or they just weren't used to HF. It was the first and only time, maybe once a year, that they would come out. It was fun and easy radio. And guess what? It got them on the air again. We just recently purchased a what's the new ICOM in that 718, I think it is. It's less than $600. You can't go wrong to get on. If you want a new radio, it's a great entry level radio. I'm sure Yaesu has it. I'm sure Kenwood has it. I'm just not familiar with those models. But again, based upon for under $600, you're getting yourself a radio. Oh, and by the way, it's lightweight, so you can still take it off the desk in your shack. And if you want to put it on the tailgate of your truck or in the backyard, on a table, and
sorry.
And guess what? It goes from 100 watts, and then you can turn the power down to 5 watts. And guess what you are? You're QRP. And you can now have fun learning about QRP when you're ready at the same time. And it's just it's an opportunity while still getting on the air. Don't ever forget that. It's an opportunity to get on the air. No, but absolutely. Do you know how many baking sheets I have stolen over the years? And I used to go back in the day, we used to get pie tins. The actual, now I don't like apple pie, cherry pie. Yell at me all you want. But we used to steal the metal pie tins, and they were perfect for a mag mount, especially for a small 3-inch for a VHF antenna. And when I lived in my condo, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get out? And again, I stole first it was the pie sheet, a round one. Then I went to the baking sheet, and I finally then stuck it up in the attic in a crawl space, a half wave. And it works. It works. It gets you on the air. So if you need to hit if you need to hit that repeater, what happened to him? Did he fall off his chair?
No, he moved. I think he's got to adjust himself. It's okay.
Or is he
Put on
going
a
to
pair
go?
of pants. I don't know, but
Or is he going to go get a baking sheet? But yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, the ground plane, for
Absolutely.
your vertical, perfect
Magno,
idea.
perfect.
And Dan brought up a very good other item for the new ham to have or to have access to, and that would be an antenna analyzer. Look at him! Look at him! Look. I knew we had him here for a reason.
Wait,
So-
wrong finger. His idea.
So
I can't
Mike
get
also
my
said that he
fingers
had-
right.
Tell me more.
I can't get my fingers right.
Okay, go ahead,
So-
Beer
So Michael says he also has one of these, a nano VNA, for doing some quick analysis of
Lucky.
his antenna.
Wish I had that
And-
25 years ago.
And this item here is, this one goes, I think this is the 900 megahertz one I think I have. It'll take me from HF all the way up to the end of UHF. So it's
Perfect.
just, it'll help out. And they actually had to redo my siding, so I had to unhook my antennas. And then when I put them back on, I'm like, I don't remember which was which because I, didn't mark them. So I had this hooked up in the shack. I hooked up one of the two antennas I have out there and found out that I hooked up the right one to the right spot. So just by
you bring
keeping
up a
this
good
on the
point.
line,
How much
You
did
bring
that
up-
cost you, man?
50.
Yo,
50,
So worth
50
it.
American.
large.
That's so
Yeah.
worth
50
it.
American
currency
dollars.
dollars.
Shit, that's like three weeks paychecks for me, man.
Whether you're using an older rig or you're going to use the $6,000 rig, we all know there's two important things there's two components that you have to always remember: your feed line and your antenna. Because whether you have the $300 radio or even if you get that $100 used radio, if you don't have a good piece of feed line, and if you don't have a good antenna, and let's just talk about this. There's nothing wrong with that G5 RV that you can get at a flea market for what, $40 or whatever they are called, or make your own resident center fed. It's all about that antenna, and then after that, it's about propagation for that day. Because I hear a lot of hams are always saying, "What's the best radio?" I'm not hearing anyone saying, "What's the best antenna?" In my opinion, you should be getting more excited about what's the best antenna, and of course, that's going to be 1,000 answers. And some people are going to say, "Well, it's the one that you have," which I agree, but you don't get caught up in all those wonderful pictures of the guy who has the antenna farm of 26 acres and you spent a
Yeah.
lot of money. You're still going to get on the air with the dipole.
So, in all seriousness, though, getting into antennas and stuff, me personally, my favorite is KM4 ACK's little kit. Hold on.
Those are
This
awesome.
is the actual kit. Comes with the wire winder, the little T140.
Dan, what's that take? It's what? A soldering iron, maybe?
I think it's two
What's
soldering
told?
joints, a little solder, some solder, a little bit of scraping with some magnet wire, and it's all supplied except for the solder and the soldering iron.
And what does it take? About 60 for a new guy who may have to maybe read the instructions 2 or 3 times. What do you think? An hour, maybe 90 minutes?
I think the longest this took me was winding a toroid. That was it. I've wound toroids before.
Toroids.
I've wound
Toroids.
toroids before, but that's always what takes the longest on. That's what takes the longest on these, is that. And then once it's done, throw it up in the air. Throw it in the tree. Make sure you hook the feed line up to it first, and then go from there. And then I hooked it up to the analyzer, and I got dips 40, 20, 15, and
Right.
it worked out beautifully. So it was the perfect amount of wire for me. The what he sends in here, it is silky smooth and it's perfect. I use that for going out. I use that for FT8. Now
It seems like a great antenna if you just want your first build. Let's say I'm a new ham. I just passed my general. I'm 2 months in. I got an ICOM 718 on order coming from HRO, and now I need an antenna. And to me, that's like a great antenna to take, again, right? Take it to the park, your backyard, whatever.
So you have your end-fed half wave. You have
For the win.
Yes. You also have your, that there's speaker wire dipole link dipole, so on, so on. Go into any big box store, you know, you get yourself some 18 or 20 gauge speaker wire, you know, and you can even just connect the speaker wire directly to the SO239 and run that, split it apart, tie the electrician's knot. I know K8MRD has a video on it, on how
I was
he
just
did
gonna
it.
say, check out KMRD
Yep.
Mike's. Do
Mike
a
has a video.
YouTube search, YouTube search on that.
But he did, you know, he has a video on it, and I did find the original video. I can't remember who, off the top of my head, I can't remember who it is. Shows you how to do the knot in the middle, and then it's you go long and just trim it down. That's it.
Anime.
Go ahead.
So the last thing we've got here is power supplies. All right, that's the last topic on, you know, the
Yep,
the list of things we have here.
Yep, that's what I got.
Um,
My liner notes.
You definitely want something that will power whatever you're running. You want something that plus 10%. And I know that if anybody has seen it, Ape University, the Smoking Ape, you know, Professor Ape, he's done a few things on power supplies, and you know, and knowing what you want to do with it. You always want to do at least 10% more than the maximum power draw that your
Absolutely.
you know, that your radio says it does. Now, what it says in the book versus what it actually is could be off. So I always, you know, me personally, I go with what's on the book, and then I get like a 5%, you know, factor on that. But I've actually done it to where,
fudge factor.
yeah. So I've tested it. My 991 says 22 amps at full power. I did a key down on CW. It's only like 20 and a half. So.
Oh, wow.
So would you feel safe running a 25, or do you just get the 30 or the 35 for a little, you know, assurance?
Well, the other thing is I also have my 8900 hooked up to it. So I need to have a little bit more because I also have the 50 watts that's putting out.
But are you running? But you're not transmitting at the same time unless you're doing FTA on one radio and rag chewing. Am I right?
Nope, I'm doing FT8 on one, and I have APRS node on the other.
Okay.
So it's transmitting.
Fancy and stuff.
So it's
he's multitasking.
I think talking about the cables and talking about the power supply is actually, which is funny because I couldn't sleep last night. I was thinking about something for my ham shack shorts. My second one coming out. I'm gonna make so many people angry. But the biggest thing is that you got to think about your system as a whole, right? You have to think about your coax, like how far you're running, how many you're running, your power supply. It's not just buying a power pole, hooking it in. You got to calculate these things. You got to think about it, how it's going to work as a functionality. But at the end of the day, for me, when I got my IC725, it came with my power supply. I hooked it right in, and that was it. It ran. Then you elaborate. You know what I mean? Then you expand as you go further into the hobby. You don't need to think about all these things. You need one radio, one coax, one antenna, hopefully on multiple bands. You're on, and one power supply. You're on HF. You're on the frequencies, you know. And I think that's the primary objective as a new person. Don't overthink it.